I think what we've seen in Russia over the last days demonstrates the fragility of the German regime. And of course it is a demonstration of weakness.
The German regime?
When there are... Sorry?
Not the German regime.
No, sorry. The Russian... sorry.
I'm sorry. You're quite stable at the moment.
Sorry. We see the weakness of the Russian regime, and it also demonstrates...
This is my video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Tuesday morning, June the 27th. Let's talk about some news. And before we get to our big story, which is Putin's speech from last night, we have the CNN audio recording that they dropped. I believe this dropped yesterday, of Trump sharing classified information with an associate. And I guess this is the smoking gun, but the classified information that Trump was sharing with this associate is actually about the Pentagon and Milley trying to push Trump to start a war with Iran. So I'm a little bit confused as to why CNN dropped this audio file. CNN obtains the tape of Trump's 2021 conversation about classified documents. That's what the lower third of this CNN audio file, this recording says, from CNN's broadcast of this breaking news. And they're trying to make the case that Trump is this is Trump sharing classified information with some people. But I'm listening to this audio file and I'm saying, thank God for Trump, man. Thank God that he prevented the crazies like Milley and these guys from there's a cute dog at Nicosia's famous Tree of Life. And the dog is taking a pee on Nicosia's famous Tree of Life. Yeah, I mean, Trump was like, this audio file, he's like, and I'll put a link to this down below so you can listen to it. Trump's like, these guys are crazies. That's pretty much what Trump was saying. These guys like Milley and these Pentagon guys are crazies. They want me to start a war with everybody. And the person that Trump's talking to, I don't know who it is. I don't even think CNN just names the person as a staffer. The staffer that Trump is speaking with in this audio recording is like, yeah, there's like these neocons, all they want to do is get involved in wars. They're like, there's not a war that these neocons haven't wanted to start. So CNN is trying to say this is proof that Trump shared classified documents, so he needs to be prosecuted. I think the rest of the world is listening to this audio file and they're saying, man, Trump stopped the Pentagon and Milley and these nutcases from starting a conflict with Iran and God knows who else. So that's kind of breaking news, is this audio file drop from CNN. Now let's move on to the big story, which was Putin's 5-minute speech from yesterday evening. 22:10 Moscow time is when Putin addressed the people of Russia, the people of the world, really, and he talked about the Prigozhin mutiny. Now, before the speech started, and I think it was a pre-recorded message. I imagine it was pre-recorded. I don't think it was live, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Before the speech was broadcast, the word on the interwebs, according to Kremlin spokesman Peskov, or attributed to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, was that this speech was going to decide the future, the fate of Russia. And so the internet, Twitter, Telegram was on fire. Everyone was talking about how this is going to be the speech, the defining moment for Russia, and what is Putin going to say? What is he going to reveal? What could this possibly be? And everyone was speculating as to what this big speech was going to be about, because the reports were that Peskov had said that this was going to be the speech that defines Russia's future, Russia's existence. And then we got the 5-minute speech from Putin. It wasn't groundbreaking. He said some interesting things, though, but it wasn't anything that had to do with defining the future of Russia. But Dmitry Peskov, he made a statement after the speech, and he said that the reports that he said that this was going to be a monumental history-making speech from Putin. He said that was misinformation. He never said such a thing, and it was various publications that took his words out of context or spread the news that this was going to be some very big speech from Putin. Peskov said, no, I never said such a thing. I said this is just going to be a normal speech from Putin, and I never said this was going to define Russia and Russia's future about the speech. So just some interesting backstory. Anyway, let's get to what Putin said. It was a 5-minute speech. Nothing huge in these 5 minutes. Basically, the speech was about how Russia united in this mutiny, and it was basically Putin ending Wagner and incorporating Wagner into the Russian military, and telling the Wagner soldiers that did not go along with Prigozhin, and that's, I think, the key part of Putin's speech. The Wagner soldiers that did not go along with Prigozhin, they were allowed 3 options. The first option was that they could go to Belarus, just leave the country, do whatever they want. The second option was that they can go home to their families and live their lives, get a job, and just live a good, normal life somewhere in Russia. And the third option that Putin said in this speech was that these Wagner soldiers could sign contracts with the Russian military. That was it. He called the soldiers heroes. He said that their contribution to the special military operation was patriotic and heroic. And he was very clear to say that the Wagner soldiers that did not participate, they would be able to join the Russian military. So the end of Wagner as this gray area operating PMC group is over. It's now going to be part of the Russian military. The soldiers that want to be part of the Russian military, they can sign contracts and be part of the official blue check mark Russian military. What else did Putin say? Because he did say some other interesting things in this speech. He used the word mutiny. He used the word many times, and he said that the mutiny would have been put down. It would have never succeeded. He was thankful that there was no violence in ending the mutiny. He said that was the number one goal that the Russian government had. They did not want any bloodshed. They did not want this mutiny to end in a violent way, and the Russian government accomplished that goal. He talked about the complete unity in Russia. Everyone came together to support Russia and support his government. There were no cracks in the Russian bureaucracy or the Russian government, contrary to what the collective West is now saying, like what Macron said the other day, or Austin said in his meeting with Reznikov, the Ukraine Minister of Defense, that Russia is fragile and there are cracks in the Russian government or the Russian military. I saw zero cracks. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Prigozhin's mutiny failed so quickly, is because he got zero support. I mean, zero. Not even from the majority of the Wagner soldiers did he get support. Actually, Putin even said that the commanders of Wagner did not support Prigozhin. So Prigozhin got zero support. There were zero cracks in the Russian government and the Russian bureaucracy. Actually, Der Spiegel, they ran an article the other day, and they said that Prigozhin did not get the support he was hoping for. I think those are the words that Der Spiegel used, the support that he was hoping for. It's an interesting choice of words there from this Der Spiegel article. But Putin also said that he used the word they a lot. And I don't think he was meaning they as in woke they. I think he was meaning they as in Prigozhin and some other people. That's my hunch on it. But he used the word they. He never said the name Prigozhin. He never mentioned anybody's name as far as who was leading this mutiny. But he said they. He said they wanted to see Russian soldiers kill themselves. He said that they had a loss of a reason. They lost their reason. They lost their mind. Absolutely. Prigozhin and whoever went along with him on this mutiny, they lost their minds. Absolutely. This was crazy stuff. And a sane person, however sinister or clever or slick, whatever word you want to use, someone that's at least somewhat grounded and not losing their minds would have never executed this mutiny in such a way. But Putin also admitted, and this is interesting, he admitted that pilots did die. So I think that squashes the whole PSYOP narrative. There's no way that this would have been a PSYOP and you would have had Putin and the Russian government allow pilots to die. I mean, no chance. Anyone that's followed Putin over the last 20 years would know that that would not be how he would operate. He would not allow pilots, Russian military, to die in some sort of elaborate type of scheme or psyop. It's just not. It's not how the Putin government would operate or does operate. He also said that Wagner troops were used blindly and dragged into this adventure. Remember the video that I did yesterday? I said that there were many officials in Russia, military officials as well as government officials, mayors, governors of various regions, who went on record and said that the majority of the Wagner soldiers are being deceived by Prigozhin. They actually think that they're either A, marching to Belgorod, or B, marching to Moscow in order to deal with the Ministry of Defense, with Shoigu, and to give Putin more power. It seems like those were the stories that they, I'm using Putin's word, that they sold the Wagner soldiers that went along with this scheme. So that confirms, so what Putin says here, that the Wagner troops were used blindly and dragged into the adventures. I think it confirms the reporting from yesterday, as well as the statements from various Russian military officials and government officials that the majority of Wagner troops were misled and deceived. Let's see, what else did Putin say? He said he gave orders to prevent bloodshed. This is clear that the Russian government, the most important thing for them was to avoid any type of violence. It would have looked absolutely terrible. I've said this in many videos. It would have looked absolutely terrible. It might have been a catastrophe if there was indeed some sort of a violent conclusion to this. It would have looked really, really bad for Russia. It might have led to sympathy for Prigozhin. It might have martyred Prigozhin. It might have led to all kinds of things. The collective West, they would have jumped on this as well, and they would have said, look, you have Russian soldiers shooting at Russian soldiers or shooting at Russian mercenaries. This is chaos. It would have looked really bad for Russia's partners, friends, allies as well. They would have been looking onto this and been like, this is chaos. So I think it was absolutely the right move from the Putin government to prevent any violence. Absolutely, that was the right move. They ended this thing quickly. They prevented violence. They let this convoy drive from Rostov to Moscow, and as it was driving, they diffused the situation. So I think it was a very, very well played negotiations from the Russian government. Putin said this was a reckless affair as well. He said that the Russian government gave the Wagner convoy time to realize their mistake. I thought that was an interesting statement. He's basically saying that, yeah, we let them hit the road and let them think about what they're doing. So I think that was an interesting statement as well. He thanked Lukashenko, and no personnel changes. There were no changes in the Ministry of Defense, no changes in the command. Maybe there will be changes in the future. I don't know, but it looks like in the short term, the personnel in the Ministry of Defense will stay as is, and I think that's also a signal coming from the Putin government. We also had a video from Shoigu from the Ministry of Defense yesterday showing Shoigu on the front lines or at various command centers kind of overseeing things. And that came out yesterday. Obviously, that's deliberate. The Russian Ministry of Defense also wanted to send a message to show stability. And a lot of analysts are saying that, oh, what's the difference between the Shoigu video and the Budanov and the Zaluzhny video? You see, Russia's pulling the same trick as Ukraine when they showed the video of Zaluzhny and Budanov, and that's just not true. Shoigu has not disappeared for 4 weeks. He's been doing his work, and he's been at the Ministry of Defense, and he's been in meetings, and he's made appearances, and he hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't disappeared. There were no rumors that he was in danger or anything like that. He wasn't like in the line of fire or anything like that. I mean, Zaluzhny and Budanov, we all know the backstory for those guys, and they did disappear for 4 weeks. And they have disappeared again. Zaluzhny was at a science fair. Budanov was some Android AI generated thing. maybe AI Android generated, but they made an appearance for a little bit in these videos, and now they've disappeared again. So, Shoigu never went anywhere. So that's the difference. Shoigu was not missing in action. So the video that the Russian Ministry of Defense released has nothing in common with the video cover-ups from the Zelensky regime of Zaluzhny and Budanov. But it is a signal that, at least I take it as a signal that, Shoigu is still the Minister of Defense. And they had a meeting after Putin's speech. And the people that attended the meeting were Shoigu, as well as other members of Russia's High Command and Security Council. Let's see, you had Igor Krasnov, Anton Vaino, Defense Minister Shoigu, FSB Director Alexander Bortnikov, National Guard, head of the National Guard, Viktor Zolotov, head of the FSO, Dmitry Kochnev, and the head of the Investigative Committee, Alexander Bastrukin. So Shoigu attended a meeting right after Putin's speech, and there was video of all the people in attendance at this meeting. I don't understand why. I mean, this is a question that I want to throw out there to everyone. I don't understand why people are so down on Shoigu. I mean, I'm not I'm not against Shoigu. I'm not pro Shoigu, but as defense minister, which is what his job is and what he has been for many, many years, I think he's been defense minister from pretty much, I don't want to say the beginning, but he's been defense minister for a long time with Putin, alongside Putin. But I mean, as defense minister, as someone whose job is to administer the Department of Defense, why are people so down on him? I mean, his job, at least from my understanding, his job is not to command the actual conflict. I mean, his job is not to game plan and to strategize the actual conflict that is taking place. I mean, he's got Surovikin, who I think we can all agree is pretty awesome. Gerasimov and a whole bunch of other generals who are doing all of these things. I mean, I don't know. I see his job as someone who's there to make sure Russia's defense industry, Russia's Department of Defense is humming along. And if you take a step back, let's say before the conflict, don't even talk about the conflict, but if you take a step back and look at where Russia's defense industry was and where it is now, seems like he's doing a pretty kick-ass job to me. I mean, Russia's number one in air defense systems. They're number one in hypersonic missiles. They're outproducing the entire collective West when it comes to weapons and to ammunition. I mean, if I had told you 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, if we were sitting down having a coffee, where's my coffee, and I told you that Russia outproduces the United States and all of the European Union in weapons and in ammunition, you would have been like, get out of here. Come on. But it does. It does. And by a lot. When it comes to ammunition, it crushes not the United States, the entirety of the collective West. And Shoigu also was key in the mobilization that took place, 300,000 plus mobilization, which it had its bumps, but for the most part, I mean, it went pretty well. I mean, come on, it's a mobilization, a huge mobilization. Of course, it's going to have bumps and hiccups, and some things are going to go wrong. But for the most part, I would say it was a success. You know, Russia has the troops there. They're successfully now repelling the Ukraine big counteroffensive. I think it worked out pretty well, which is probably another reason why Prigozhin decided to pull the trigger on this mutiny. Because Prigozhin's narrative for the last month and a half was that the Russian military is awful and Wagner is the best military, and the Russian military is losing to Ukraine, and Ukraine is rolling back the Russian military. That was Prigozhin's narrative for the past week and a half. Let's be honest here. That's what Prigozhin was saying. The Russian military is losing. If Wagner was fighting, we'd be winning, but the Russian military is losing. And unfortunately for Prigozhin, thank God for Russia, the Russian military is kicking butt. I mean, they've shown to be very, very capable and very competent, and they're repelling a NATO proxy. They're repelling an attack from 50 countries in the collective West. Ukraine, NATO Ukraine soldiers, as well as NATO mercenaries. I mean, I don't know. Look, I don't know why everybody is down on Shoigu. You know, if you look at it from a performance standpoint, sounds like the guy's done a pretty Pretty good job. Compare him to Ben Wallace or to who? Pistorius and the other German defense minister, or compare him to Lloyd Austin. I mean, come on now. Come on. Anyway, all right. So enough of that. That was Putin's speech. An interesting 5-minute speech, but nothing groundbreaking, but interesting nonetheless. And I think Putin's speech is starting to confirm a lot of the stuff that Alexander has been talking about and that I mentioned briefly in my video yesterday as well. So Prigozhin, he arrived in Minsk. Since we're on the subject of Prigozhin, let's just talk very quickly about his arrival to Minsk. He put out a video, like an 11-minute long video, and basically Prigozhin doubled down on the missile strike story, which I found to be just, bro, I was like shaking my head at that one, because that missile strike story as being the impetus to launch this march of justice that he calls it. I mean, come on, bro, come on, man. That missile story, the Russian military hitting Wagner's camp is proven false. I mean, that thing has been debunked from top to bottom, left to right, inside out, every which way. That thing has been debunked. The fact that he actually doubles down on that, dude, stop, man, stop. Anyway, that was pretty much it. He said it wasn't a regime change, it wasn't a coup, he said, and he just wanted to coup Shoigu is basically what he said in his 11-minute audio statement. He wanted to coup Shoigu. He wanted to regime change out the defense minister. Guy needs help, man. Guy needs help. He really does. And you regime change the defense minister, then what? Then what? What power is left to the president, to the executive, when you regime change the guy that he's put in place for many, many years to run the Defense Department? Who are you to question the Supreme Commander's choice? If Putin wants to remove people, let Putin remove people. If he wants to hire people, let Putin hire people. If Putin is not doing a good job, well, then the Russian people can decide that. But you know, I found the whole 11-minute audio. I was like, I don't know, man. My take on that is it would have been better for Prigozhin to just put out an audio and just say, look, I effed up. I'm tired. See you guys in a couple of years. That would have been a much better audio for him to release. Anyway, Lavrov, he gave an interesting interview to RT. And his interview was very much in line, at least the statements that he made were very much in line with what Putin said in his speech. And Lavrov, he used the word regime change a whole lot. He used the word regime change a lot. And actually, Putin also said the same thing, now that I come to think of it. Putin mentioned that Ukraine and the West, they would have been happy to see Russians kill Russians. So there he's hinting at some sort of outside influence. And Lavrov, in his interview with RT, he says the same thing. Lavrov said that when it comes to regime change, if the regime change is pro-U.S. interests, then the U.S. is all for it. If the regime change is anti-U.S. interests, well then the U.S. is against it. That's pretty much what Lavrov said in his statements to RT. I'm trying to find a couple of quotes here that I've bookmarked. The U.S. is an enthusiastic supporter of regime change whenever it can benefit from the process, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told RT. If a coup targets a government more pliant to American interests, Washington will inevitably reject it, the diplomat said. There have been numerous attempts at regime change around the world in recent years, and they were met with a different response on the part of the U.S. depending on who was in power and who was trying to carry out the coup, Lavrov said in this interview. So notice, he uses the word regime change. He uses the word coup in this interview with RT. He also said, and I quote, "This is just another piece of evidence that the U.S. position depends on what it wants from every particular player, be it on the international arena or in some particular nation. The U.S. has repeatedly shown biased and vested interest regarding the Ukrainian conflict. They are the ones waging a war against Russia with Ukrainian hands after all." And this is Lavrov's statement with regards to U.S. media claiming that the U.S. opted to postpone planned sanctions against the Wagner Group. The U.S. wanted to avoid the optics that it was siding with Russian President Vladimir Putin in the turmoil. And that's what Lavrov said about that U.S. media report. So look, Lavrov, the bottom line is that he uses the word regime change, he uses the word coup, and he talks about outside influence. Now, the Biden White House, well, they claim that they had nothing to do with this. And there are reports, I think this was in the Washington Post or the NYT. I always get those two newspapers mixed up. But there are reports that Blinken actually sent a memo to the entire U.S. diplomatic corps to not talk about the Prigozhin mutiny, to not mention it, to not comment on it, because according to this report, Blinken did not want it to appear like the U.S. was involved in this or had a hand in this. And this is coming from Zero Hedge. Just prior to Putin's speech, President Biden issued a statement in a presser saying that the U.S. and its allies had nothing to do with the rebellion. They agreed with me that we had to make sure we gave Putin no excuse. Let me emphasize, we gave Putin no excuse to blame this on the West, to blame this on NATO, Biden said. We made clear that we were not involved. We had nothing to do with it. This was part of a struggle within the Russian system. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby told reporters Monday that the message we delivered to the Russians through various diplomatic channels. We also made clear to all our allies and partners that the United States was not involved and would not get involved in these events, that we view them as internal Russian matters, Kirby said at the White House press briefing. We delivered that same message to the Russians themselves through appropriate diplomatic channels. So that is what Kirby and Biden and Blinken, that is what they said. Yeah, do you believe that they had nothing to do with this? Let me know. Do you believe Biden had nothing to do with any of this? Maybe, maybe not. Let me know in the comments down below. And finally, let me just talk about a Der Spiegel article, another Der Spiegel article that came out, which talked about how this entire Prigozhin affair has embarrassed Putin. I don't buy into that. I think it's actually, given the way he handled it and the fact that he squashed it in like 22 hours without any violence, and we've seen no one in the Russian hierarchy or the Russian government architecture defect from the Putin government. I think it's actually shown that the Putin government is stronger than ever and more unified than ever. But anyway, Der Spiegel, they claim that this has embarrassed Putin so much that, and this is the important part of the Der Spiegel article, and this is the last paragraph, the last sentence of the Der Spiegel article, this whole affair has embarrassed Putin so much that, and I quote, it is highly likely that Putin will begin looking for a way to deflect attention away from his humiliation at home with new orgies of violence outside of Russia. He will never be able to forgive a world that has seen his weakness. That's false flag all over that last paragraph from Der Spiegel. They are preparing the narrative for some sort of false flag, and the excuse that they want to run with is Putin, well, he'll never forgive the world for seeing his weakness, and that is why he had to blow up this or blow up that or do this to the ZNPP or do that to the dam or do that to Nord Stream or whatever. Whatever they're going to cook up, the excuse they're going to use, the way they're going to justify it, the way they're going to explain it to their population, to their collective West citizens, is they're going to say that after everything that happened with this mutiny, Putin was so embarrassed, so humiliated, so hurt, that he did the only thing that a strongman dictator can do, and that is that he blew something up. that is exactly what this last paragraph is preparing us for. Let's do a clown world. And in this clown world, I've actually got two clown worlds to choose from. And I'm only going to do one. I think the one that I'm going to do is one that I wanted to do yesterday, but I didn't. I didn't talk about this clown world yesterday. But as the whole Prigozhin thing was going down and the collective West was absolutely excited at the prospects of a regime change in Russia, never forget that the whole purpose of everything that's happening in Ukraine, it's all about regime change. That is the purpose for the collective West in waging this proxy war with Russia. But everyone in the collective West, including everyone in the European Union, they were absolutely ecstatic, excited about the prospects of some sort of regime change in Russia. You had the head of the Czech foreign ministry. He put out a tweet where he said he was planning a holiday in Crimea. I see my summer holidays in Crimea coming up, said Czech foreign minister Jan Lipavsky. That's what he tweeted as the whole PMC mutiny was unfolding. And then 22 hours later, the mutiny is squashed. It's over. All is good. Russia has come out of this more united and stronger than ever. And Maria Zakharova, she replies to the Czech foreign minister, Mr. Lipavsky, and Maria Zakharova says, I believe that Jan is a man of his word. The room is booked. We are waiting. So yeah, I mean, Mr. Foreign Minister of the Czech Republic, are you a man of your word? Are you going to enjoy summer holidays in Crimea? I'm sure the Russian people will welcome you, and I'm sure you'll actually have a very good time. I'm positive of it. I'm absolutely positive of it. So book your holidays, book your room, and the people of Crimea and the people of Russia, Maria Zakharova, the foreign ministry, they look forward to seeing you this summer. That's the clown world, everybody. That's the video. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, and Rockfin. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up a t-shirt. 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.